Hello, this is Matt. Welcome back to another episode of In the News. First of all, before we get into it, I'm going to make a few announcements. If you just want to skip ahead, you can look down below in the description to find a timestamp to where you want to skip to. Before we get started, a few announcements. First of all, we have to address the elephant in the room. We haven't been posting a lot lately, and that's mostly because, well, I've been busy with a lot of personal things, moving and whatnot. Other co-hosts Ryan and Deshaun, they've also been busy, so it's just been very difficult to find any time for any of us to record. So today would just be me. Both Ryan and Deshaun, they're both busy doing their other things. Today we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court leak. Surprise, surprise, that's the headline on everyone's radar right now. Before we get into the case, though, I just want to go into what the case is about. Like, why is the Supreme Court even talking about abortion? Like, where did it come from? This comes from the case currently before the court, labeled Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. And in this case, it's Jackson Women's Health Organization is the only abortion facility that's licensed to do abortions in the state of Mississippi. It's in the state of Jackson. And it's suing the state of Mississippi over a law passed back in 2018 called the Gestational Age Act, which prohibits all abortions with very few exceptions after 15 weeks. So they took it to the district court down in Jackson, federal district court, and they sided with Jackson Women's Health, saying that the law violates Roe v. Wade, that they can't pass the law. The state of Mississippi then appealed to the Supreme Court, and it's been in the court ever since. They heard the oral arguments back in December 1st of 2021, and since then it's been in deliberations between the justices. So moving past that to today we're talking about the leak and not really why it happened, because we all know why it happened. It happened because someone on either side of the aisle wanted to get the story out that the Supreme Court was ready to overturn Roe v. Wade. Whether it's a conservative who was just so excited they let it slip out, which is less likely, or it's one of the aides to the liberal justices, Sotomayor or whatnot, or if it was one of the justices themselves who did it, which would be an absolute, whoever leaked it, whoever instructed them to leak it, it would be an absolute career ender for them. Because the courts is heavily based on trust, especially in the deliberation. Like, it's trust secrecy, not because they're doing anything wrong or anything, it's to avoid outside interference in the process. When someone shows that they're unable to maintain that trust, there's just really no point in being any judicial system. Once the leaker is identified, the 20-second rule would be implemented and they would be fired within 20 seconds of them being discovered. The leak itself, though, is pretty unprecedented. There have been leaks in the court in the past. However, this is the first time that it's a full draft opinion that's still being deliberated on. There's still a final vote to be held on. That most leaks from the Supreme Court up until now have been leaks that have not been as impactful. Most of them are after the final vote is issued. Some of them are not even about opinions, more about who changed their opinions after the initial deliberations were heard and whatnot. So the fact that they gave out an entire draft opinion weeks, maybe even months before the final vote or the final opinion is given out, that is what truly is unprecedented. The leak itself is not, but it's what was leaked and how. Going into the legality of what they're doing, like, is Roe v. Wade considered constitutional? Like, what is their reasoning? And it's kind of hard to make a argument saying that Roe v. Wade is constitutional. Both sides of the aisle, in the judicial arena at least, agree to this. Like, even the most pro-choice advocates in the judicial system admit that it's very difficult to make a constitutional argument. Even justices like Ruth Bader Ginsburg has gone on the record and said that Roe v. Wade is very questionable, that if it were to be challenged, it'd be very difficult to be upheld directly, which is why when it was back in the case of Casey v. Planned Parenthood back in the 1990s, most of Roe v. Wade was overturned. the most of the constitutional explanations and reasonings, that was essentially overturned, leaving just the bare bones of the right to an abortion in place. The reason for this is mostly reads like a piece of legislation. If you read it word for word, the actual court opinion, it reads more like legislation than an actual court opinion. Starting with the whole viability rule, the fetus can't be aborted after a certain point of its development, that it's once it's viable, it can't be aborted. And back when it was originally decided in 1973, it meant something very different than what it means now, not just due to advances in science and understanding and fetal development, but also because of advances in science. We're now able to support life at a much younger gestational age, meaning the viability of a fetus in 1973 was different than what it would be today. Another thing would be the trimesters, that really the court only has one job, and that's to say whether something is constitutional or not. The trimester format that they established really has no place in what the court should be doing. They said that that states can't regulate abortions before so and so, but they can after so and so. That's not their job. Their job is to say whether what was before the court is permissible or not. Going to the main arguments behind the purported right to an abortion, the argument that it's protected under the 14th Amendment, that the state cannot deprive people of life, liberty, without due process of law, which is ironic because they're taking away life without due process of law. But they're saying that under the liberty, shall not deprive any persons of liberty without due process of law. That there is the enshrining of the right to an abortion in the Constitution, that the women should have the liberty to do what they want with their bodies, which to an extent is true. It's their body, they should do what they want. However, when it comes to ending another human being's life, that's where it gets tricky, because that's where the whole debate is. Like, where does life begin? Does it begin at the first breath? Does it begin at the heartbeat? Does it begin when it detects brainwaves? Does it begin at conception? That's really where the main debate is. But having the right to liberty is not an absolute either, because you can't say, I'm going to go out and kill a homeless person because I want to, because you're killing someone else. This same argument goes into whether you can have an abortion or not. It's your body, it's your liberty. But at the same time, your liberty goes as far as other people's rights. Your rights, you have the right to do what you want, but once it starts affecting other people, that's when your rights have to be limited. Now, a lot of people, they're going to start saying that abortion should be legal, abortion should not be legal because of this reason or that reason. However, when it comes to the Supreme Court, when it comes to Roe v. Wade in and of itself, for lack of a better term, it's frankly irrelevant. That's not the decision of the court to make. That is the decision of the states to make. Every state legislature, Florida, Texas, California, New York, they're all gonna have to come to a decision on their own, independently, on where they want to stand on abortion. States like California can have laws saying that you can abort fetuses 3 weeks after birth, and then there's going to be some states like Tennessee who say abortion is going to be outlawed completely, unless in like extreme cases, if even that. It's going to fall completely to the states. And that's not only how it should be, but that's how it originally was. People will have the misunderstanding that overturning Roe v. Wade would mean that there'd be a federal ban on abortion. When really that's not it at all. It would just fall back to the states. It would not be a federal issue anymore. It'd be a state issue. And that's essentially, not essentially, it is literally how the Constitution is set up, the different state governments and federal governments, so that the states and local governments can institute laws about such things that are more reflective of the people who live there. Rather than having a one size fits all policy on abortion, there is a California policy, there is a Florida policy, there is a New York policy, there's a Michigan policy. And starting to close this, we'll start seeing states, as I said before, start instituting different forms of legislation for abortion. There are some states that have trigger laws, which the second Roe v. Wade is overturned, it'll be instantly outlawed in the state. There are other states that have further enshrined abortion, such as Connecticut and California, which some of which are even instituting laws that you can abort a person after they're born. And going into the midterms, I don't really see how this whole issue is going to be influencing that at all, really. Um, Most people, they don't really vote on the issue of abortion. The people who do vote on that issue were probably already going to vote before the case and had already decided their mind long before the case was even announced. Even then, abortion will probably not be on the minds of people in November, because right now it's May, early May. The court is probably going to release the ruling sometime early to midsummer. The Democrats are essentially giving up their October surprise all the way up in May. So I, I find it very difficult to have a topic like this be on the minds of people months and months and months down the line when there are so many other pressing issues such as the economy and foreign policy going on. I don't really see how abortion is going to maintain its place at the top of the headlines with so many other things going on right now. And with such an unfavorable popularity of the current administration, I don't see it making too big of a headwind. Sure, will some Democrats be more energized? Yeah, sure, of course. I don't see it being that big of an issue, though. Like, I don't see it turning the coming red wave into a competitive election cycle. The energy just not there. Even now, it's starting to die down. And then once the opinion is released officially, it might come back up, but within a few weeks, it'll once again die down. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you heard or saw, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let us know what you think of this new format. Do you prefer one host at a time talking about a singular topic, or did you prefer more hosts and different hosts and co-hosts talking about a variety of issues? Let me know. Let us know, and we'll make sure to put out more content like that. Till next time. See ya.